Well, President John Mahama has met his cabinet to discuss the way forward for the country after the election petition verdict. They are set to have discussed the socio-economic impact of the petition process on the economy over the 8 months it lasted. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed is Deputy Information and Media Relations Minister.
This is the first cabinet meeting after the Supreme Court verdict, and the fact that we have been in court for 8 months distracted, if you like, government, even though government remained focused. The donor support that we get, that's the multi-donor budget funding to this country, nothing came because they were all holding up. They stopped completely. It also emerged that almost all the Western nations had an evacuation plan for their citizens at that time. Our attention has been drawn to the cost that this coverage event incurred to GBC. We are told they incurred a cost of almost $3.5 million, million Ghana cedis, and that is just GTV alone. It is also a fact that productivity was affected, that many people were glued onto TVs, even at their workplaces. It is time for us to focus on the business of improving the living conditions of the Ghanaian people. And that is why His Excellency the President is calling on all of us that we need to cease fire and focus on the business of governance.
Well, he said that other issues that were to be discussed at Cabinet yesterday included property rights of spouses, Ghana Library Services, and the National Youth and Sport Act, among others. Meanwhile, government is calling on the Black Stars to do away with complacency and win over their Zambian counterparts today at the Babayara Sports Stadium.
It is obvious that the Minister of Finance certainly would have to explain to Cabinet some of the measures that were put in place by this government to ensure that we mobilize the needed revenue and possibly reduce the expenditure. They would look at them and possibly, if they approve, it would then be sent to Parliament for approval. We also want to use the opportunity to wish the Black Stars the best of luck tomorrow. It is a match that we certainly must win, even though we just need a point to qualify for the World Cup. It is significant to note that this is a match that would climax the joy with which the Supreme Court has given to the people of this country. So it is our wish and prayer, and we believe that the people of this country will join all of us in praying for the Black Stars. Government wish to urge that they shouldn't be complacent, they should remain focused so that victory will be ours tomorrow.
So a legal practitioner, Kofi Bentil, who is also Vice President of Imani Ghana, a policy think tank, has been speaking on the judgment of the election petition hearing.
Right. From reading the judgment, as it's been given, you have two schools of thought. So I use an analogy. If you have a polling station where 100 people are registered, but only 60 people turn out to vote, in a perfect situation, you have 60 ballots in the box. Now, the judges are saying that if you have 100 people registered and 60 people turn up to vote, but then you find 65 votes in the ballot, it is not overvoting because there were 100 people registered to vote, regardless of the fact that 60 people turned up to vote. The 5 extra is what they are calling stuffing. Okay? Now, the minority is saying that if you have 100 people registered and 60 people turn out to vote, then anything beyond 60 is overvoting and should be treated as such. So you have these two schools of thought. One saying that you can't have overvoting if the number of registered voters has not been exceeded. The other is saying that it is overvoting if the number of people who were present at the polling station were exceeded. So these are the two views, and the majority is on the view that if it does not exceed the number of registered voters, it is not overvoting, and that is the law as it stands today. So going forward, we'll all have a chance to discuss them and see what we all should do to define these things better for 2016.
Do you think there's any confusion with regard to that? I mean, as to what really overvoting is?
I think there will be a bit of confusion, but there's a difference between confusion and law. Most people don't understand law as it's supposed to be, and that's okay. So let's distinguish between confusion, disagreement, and all those other things, and then the law. yes, people will be confused, because if you have 60 people turning out, okay, and you have 65 in the ballot box, where did the 5 come from? The majority side says that it is stuffing. Okay, we'll have some time to discuss and maybe understand what stuffing means, whether it's allowed, what is the legal effect of stuffing, and all those other things. But clearly, there's a bit of confusion, because for some people, as long as you have 60 people turning up, there should be only 60 votes in the ballot. Okay, but I believe we'll have sufficient time to maybe go through these things. And judgments like these, they constitute law, but they are not the end of everything. Usually after these things are passed, you have people going back, to look again and then try and streamline things, back and forth. That is why there's so much call for reform and, the like.
And we're still on the verdict. Now, civil society groups are blaming the African Union for the stagnated development and non-involvement of the youth in Africa's development agenda. Failure of the AU to implement its own State of the Union's recommendations to involve young people in key decision-making areas is seen to be a major contributor to Africa's woes. Now, these revelations came up at a roundtable discussion organized by the Institute of Democratic Governance on Youth Empowerment.
In December 2010, Ghana ratified the African Youth Charter, which was endorsed by the AU heads of state, including Ghana, in July 2006. The objective was to provide governments, civil society organizations, the youth and other partners a continental framework for addressing the rights, duties, responsibilities and parameters for the development of national youth policy programs. It is also to empower the youth in the bid of attaining a total development on the continent. The failure by the AU to ensure all recommendations made in the Charter is enforced to the letter has affected youth development and empowerment, especially in Ghana.
The African Youth Charter and the declaration of the Decade of Youth came up immediately with an action plan. But the implementation of the action plan by the AU itself is lacking. Now, if you look at the population of Africa, we're looking at more than 70% below the age of 35. Post the Golden Jubilee, the next 50 years, 2063, looking at the future of AU. Anchored on the youth, there is no youth desk at AU. It's a desk part of the human resource unit. Invites them to programs or activities or initiative interactions. They tell you, we are not adequately resourced.
Senior lecturer, Department of Political Science at the University of Ghana, Dr. Ransford Van Jampo, attributed it to the politicization of the education sector.
Excessive politicization of the educational system, the lack of adequate and definite policy on education, particularly regarding the number of years to be spent at the pre-tertiary level, as well as the nation's inability to provide adequate infrastructure and motivation for teachers, remain serious hindrances to quality education in Ghana. Even though about 250,000 young people enter the labor market annually, the formal sector is able to engage only 2%, leaving 98% to strive to survive in the informal sector or remain unemployed.
The national coordinator of the National Youth Authority, Sedina Tamaklo Ationu, indicated the authority has put measures in place to promote entrepreneurship among the youth. The Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, Thomas Kwesi Kwati, said the youth will be frontliners in the National Development Program, which has kick-started.
And let's move away from the capital. Residents in the secondly Takoradi Metropolis and its environs are likely to be hit by a massive water rationing within the next 2 weeks. This is as a result of the dwindling levels of raw water in the Inchaban Dam, which originally produces about 4 million gallons of water a day to the metropolis. Now, the dam presently produces only 1.2 million gallons a day, which is about 30% of expected production. Here's a report by Western Regional Correspondent William Benjamin Peters.
The Sekondi Takoradi Metropolis relies on two water headworks, Inchaban and Daboase, for its water supply, with Inchaban headworks producing a greater chunk of water for domestic use and for companies operating within the metropolis. The Nchaban Headworks Dam was built in the early 1920s and commissioned in 1928. It takes its source from the Anankor River, with the headworks producing about 4 million gallons of water a day for the metropolis. The Nchaban Headworks also supplies water to some major industries in the region, including the Takoradi Port, Gassem, Limestone, whilst VRA takes about 50% of their total water production from the headworks. Water production is now a challenge since the raw water level keeps dwindling on a daily basis, which has been attributed to the change in weather patterns, which has resulted in low rainfall in the catchment area. The dam, which recorded about 8 meters in the same period last year, is now recording 4.5 meters, which officials say is a threat to water production. The minimum water level for the dam should be 2.8 meters, where no water can be pumped for production, but has now reached about 4.5 meters, whilst the water level keeps dwindling by 0.2 meters on a daily basis. Management of the Ghana Water Company Limited has therefore engaged key stakeholders on a tour of the Nchaban Dam site to give them opportunities to get first-hand information on their operations. The Western Regional Chief Manager of the Ghana Water Company, Engineer Daniel Muamala, in an interview explained the critical stature of the situation. He also called for the expansion of the facility.
Improve, that is to say, if because of the minor season we don't have enough rains coming in, there is one alternative that we can take. There is a submersible pump we can put in here and then pump water for treatment. But that is not how the dam is designed. But when it is critical, we will put a pump in there and then pump water for treatment. There is also a critical level at which we cannot operate the submersible pump. But at the 2.8 meters that I gave you, if it gets to that level, and the gravity flow stops, then we have to use a submersible pump to pump water for treatment for some time.
The acting director of the Takoradi Port, Captain Owusu Kranteng, sharing his view as a stakeholder, said some interventions have been put in place for water supply at his outfit, but called for some timely intervention in addressing the matter. He added that the key stakeholder companies will also meet to find out what supports they can offer towards addressing the matter.
And review of drugs on the National Health Insurance Scheme medicine list is going to be an annual exercise to enable the authority to replace old drugs with new and more effective ones. Chief Executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, Sylvester Mensah, has been speaking to Joy News on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the scheme.
The revised NHIS medicines list, which took effect on 1st August this year, contains 548 drugs, which includes 3 medicines not on the previous list. The authority says regular review of the medicines list is necessary to ensure that prices of medicines on the NHIS list reflect market trends.
Reviews will be done on an annual basis, and we've done the review of medicines this year, we've done the review of tariffs this year. And so next year we'll be looking forward to reviewing the medicines list again and also reviewing the tariffs. We would want to determine whether there are more efficacious medicines on the market that can replace the current ones. And of course, we're also looking at the cost effectiveness of these medicines.
The scheme, which came into being exactly 10 years ago today, caters for about 9 million subscribers with more than 3,200 healthcare service providers. Sylvester Mensah tells Joy News interventions such as clinical audit, establishment of claims processing center, as well as a comprehensive claims verification regime have been initiated to effectively manage claims, which is a major challenge for the scheme. These interventions are also to ensure that subscribers receive quality services from healthcare providers.
The claims verification goes beyond sampling. It goes to the point of assessing all claims that have been submitted by a district, by a facility, from month to month, counting every single claim and reconciling the claim figures with the tally sheets and the amounts that we have paid in a bid to dig further into the whole issue of integrity of the claims that we pay. It is part of the quality assurance system that we have
to ensure that we have value for money, that the taxpayers' money is put to good use.
The scheme, he says, will not tolerate members who default on renewal of premiums.
We are trying to instill some level of discipline in our membership, and importantly, to avoid the trap of having what is technically referred to as risk selection or adverse selection, where you have a scheme full of sick people that people only register when they are sick. We have had situations where people on their sick bed have tried to take pictures to be sent to our offices to get a card with the hope that they would have free care delivered to them. That is what we want to discourage.
The new health insurance law passed in 2012, however, makes it mandatory for every Ghanaian to register with the NHIS.
The University Teachers Association of Ghana has called off a strike and asked all members to return to work starting today. UTAG has been on strike for almost a month now over unpaid book and research allowances. But after a meeting with the Vice Chancellors of Ghana and the Presidency, UTAG President Dr. Anthony Simmons tells Joy News the association has now accepted the promise made to them at Thursday afternoon's meeting. He said the Vice Chancellors have been given the mandate to find money and make payments. As such, the strike is called off with immediate effect. He promised the association will cooperate with the Vice Chancellors to get the money to pay the teachers. And that's it for the AM News. Our top stories for this hour. President John Mahama has met with his cabinet to discuss the way forward for the country after the election petition verdict. A review of drugs on the National Health Insurance Scheme medicine list is to become an annual exercise. And the University Teachers Association of Ghana has called off a strike and asked all members to return to work starting today.